Hello, I'm Ron Johnson, Vice President of Construction for Habitat for Humanity in Hillsborough County, and this is home maintenance class. The first thing I'd like to cover, there's so many things in the home that you can do, you just aren't aware of it. And that's what we're here to do, is to try to give you some information and arm you with this knowledge so you can save a few dollars and empower yourselves to do the repairs that are needed around the house. First thing I'd like to start off with is the flapper. We call it the flap on, flap off on the toilet valve. That's this little valve right here. This is what it looks like. It's about $6 or $7. They range in value and price. You can go down. What happens is this little rubber piece sits over top of the drain inside the tank of the commode, and when this dries out, the water leaks and you hear it running a little bit under the toilet. And as it leaks down, then eventually it causes the toilet to flush, and then that uses more water, and it'll flush on its own periodically. This is pretty simple to replace. If you'll open the tank, take the lid off the rear tank and put some gloves on, shut the water off on the valve. The valve down at the bottom underneath the tank looks very similar to this. You'll turn it clockwise to turn it off all the way so the water doesn't keep running. Then you'll flush the toilet, get all the water out of the back of there, and you'll see this down at the bottom, and this is attached to the handle. When you pull the handle on the commode, this lifts up, causing the water to go out of the tank, which causes a suction in the bowl, and then the toilet flushes. And then this drops back down with the water, sealing it, fills back up, and it's ready to go again. This is pretty easy. It's just made out of rubber. It's really light and easy. You'll unclip this end. You'll see this little clip here. You unclip this end from the handle or the bracket that's coming off the back of the handle, and then these side little flanges, you'll pull those off of the side of the vertical tube. Take this off, put this back on just like it was, put these back on the tube, and then attach this to the arm that comes off of the handle in the back of on the top of the tank. When you do that, you can adjust this chain depending on how the handle, you'll test it a few times. If it doesn't quite flush all the way, then you might want to take it up so that it pulls this up higher. It's supposed to pull this up high enough to cause the suction in the back of the tank with the water flowing out. You'll notice it's hollow. It traps air, so it floats up pretty easy, but then when all the water is gone, it drops down, sealing off the port at the back of the tank, and then this causes the tank to fill up again, and it starts all over again, giving you that liter or so of water reservoir into the tank, ready for the next time. Or if it doesn't flush too much and it's still running, then you can adjust it down. So you can adjust and kind of play with that a little bit. I would encourage you with anything we're going over today, look on YouTube a few times, get armed with that. They have a lot of informative knowledge. You can also go on the manufacturer's website. This one happens to be, I think it says Corky. It's a universal. They come in some very different styles. The easiest thing to do is to take it off your tank, go to the hardware store, Lowe's or Home Depot, and tell them, hey, I need one of these, and they'll be happy to help you. There's a lot of variations with some of this stuff, so if you get one that is universal, that usually is the best bet, and it fits most things. If a plumber's got to come out, of course, he has a certain minimum, he has a truck full of tools, all that. Not that they're not worth it, but if you can do it yourself, hey, why not? You know, so this is going to happen on new toilets from time to time. Old toilets, with age, this is just something that wears out, being in the water and cracking and such from time to time. To keep going on the toilets is your toilet fill valve. This is the part that goes in the back of the tank. This floats up and down, turning on and off the water. Your water is going to come in here through the bottom of the tank, and this is going to be fastened like so. This goes into a fill spout in the tank. At the bottom of that fill spout is where this flapper is generally located. and that fills up in there, and that keeps it pretty quiet. Sometimes this comes off and it kind of shoots the water underneath the lid. So, you know, hey, if water's coming out of the lid, you know this is probably the piece that came off. They make a little metal clip that goes in the end of here, and then it clips down in that tube to kind of control that. And that also keeps the water quiet. This is a pretty inexpensive one. I think it's $10, $12 maybe. And again, you can change it yourself. It's got a rubber grommet that goes underneath, goes in the hole, and you tighten it down. Then you put the hose valve, the supply valve from the shutoff valve again. Don't forget to turn back on the shutoff valve after you're done doing all your repairs, because you'll wonder why it doesn't work, and it could be as simple as that. So this goes in the tank. This is adjustable up and down so that you can get the right amount of water into the tank. This here turns. This is just a float. As the water fills in the tank, it floats up and turns off the water coming in. And when you flush it, it goes back down, allowing the water to flow and refill up the tank again. And that's pretty much a very simple mechanism. It's all plastic, and it's pretty inexpensive and easy to change out. That pretty much comprises everything in your commode that's all mechanical and active in there. There's only one other seal between the tank and the bowl that sometimes goes bad, but that takes generally quite a few years, and you don't normally have too many problems with that, and you can't really see it. We're not going to really cover that today. That's a little more in depth than just general home maintenance, but these are the kind of things that work all the time.
How about the actual flush handle?
The flush handle, I do not have one here, but it is on the side. They make variants. Sometimes they break once in a while, plastic and metal. They're pretty universal as well. If you'll take it off, bring it to the hardware store, tell them, hey, I need one of these. They'll be happy to connect you with that, and you'll see how it goes on. It goes through a hole in the side of the porcelain tank. There's a nut on the back side that kind of screws on, and then you would reattach this piece here that attaches to your flapper. Again, when you pull the handle down, that causes this to lift, causes the toilet to flush out with that. That pretty much comprises for the commode section on the toilet. If we move on to the sink. So your kitchen sink has some, again, the two supply valves going to your faucets. And we're not going to cover the valves inside of the faucets or the seals. That's a little more in depth. But this is the shutoff valve. And underneath your sink, there's a hot and a cold shutoff valve. Underneath your toilet, there's one of these valves. So whenever you have a leak, know that turn this to the right, it shuts it off, turn it back to the left, it turns it back on. Generally, you turn the valve all the way to the left and then back just a quarter turn. There's a seal on the back side. If you open it all the way and then leave it for years and then you operate it, it has a tendency to rip and tear that seal. Then you have another issue. So it's good practice to open it all the way and then back down a quarter turn or so, and that'll help the longevity life of this valve. So these are valves under all your water supplies. Underneath your sink is also your drain. So typically there's a pipe that comes out of the wall. This goes into the pipe and seals on that pipe. Then your sink drains into here, and this is called a Ptrap. This generally has a little bit of water in it, and this stops the gases from coming back into your bathroom and smelling all the drains from the sewers and things. So you want some water in that. But be mindful, because when you take this apart, because if somebody dropped a ring or anything in there, it's generally going to be caught in here unless the water has flushed it away. But this is the first place to look. When you take this off, there's going to be water in there. So if you have the need to take this off, then you probably should put a Tupperware container, some kind of catch basin underneath there to catch the water that's left over in here. It won't stay in here, but it usually does stay in here. And these are pretty simple. They unscrew and they can move. They'll unscrew all the way. This one unscrews as well, and it kind of fits as a compression. This is kind of beveled in here, and when the other pipe comes in and the seal, then it seals up, and it's just hand tight. That's why these flanges are on here. You don't want to get a big pair of pliers, which we'll cover in a little bit, and lock down on that real tight, because it'll just strip it out, and then it's not going to seal at all. Then you have to go get another one, because they're just made out of plastic. You can see some of the threads here on this one. This is the tailpiece that comes from the bottom of the sink down into the pipe, into the drain. Ideally, it's all at just the right height and it fits down in here. More times than not, these are lower, so you have a tailpiece and then you're going to need an extension piece that looks very similar to this with the, see how wide it is and narrow, and that'll connect with the tailpiece in there. The tailpiece generally has the sink stopper with a metal bar that goes across, and that goes up and down, making the stopper in your sink operate. But that's above all this here. So, and that's pretty much it for the drain. A lot of hair gets in here, so if you can maintain that, every once in a while pull this all apart. I know my daughters wonder why the sink doesn't work real well. I don't generally have a hair problem in the sink, unfortunately, but they have a sink and they wonder why it doesn't drain. It's not draining, it's not, and I pull this thing out of here that looks unbelievable. And by all means, wear gloves. I can't say that enough. When you're working on these kind of things, wear gloves. You don't know what's in there and it collects and that kind of thing. So that's pretty much the sink and the plumbing side of that. You're gonna have probably some drain issues with your showers and your tubs as well. Same kind of thing. If you take the strainer off and you get in there with maybe a coat hanger, then you're gonna see all the hair that's kind of collected on there. So wear gloves, get a little coat hanger and kind of pull that out, and it'll help your drain. There's also drain additives like a liquid Drano, some chemicals sometimes you can pour down there that'll eat the enzymes, and the water that sits in here sometimes has a buildup in the bottom here that'll reduce the flow and it'll reduce the performance of the pipe and the drain, and then you won't be happy because it doesn't drain real well. That's the drain. Let's move on to a little bit of electrical. This is called a breaker. In the bathrooms, you're going to have your receptacles, and they're called GFCI receptacles, or ground fault circuit interrupted receptacles. And they're going to be labeled on there. And the receptacles are going to have two buttons, a reset and a trip button on them. You plug your hair dryer in, and for some reason it's not working, or the light's not working, your razor's not working. That's the first place you check, is that receptacle, is the little light on, and it'll have a green light glowing on it. And you'll push the button and it should reset itself. And then it'll work again. If you keep plugging the hair dryer in and somebody else is running the hair dryer, it's overloading the circuit. That's what that's intended for. Generally around water areas, your kitchen sink and your bathroom sinks and tubs, you're going to have these GFCI receptacle as well as the circuits that are protected. And they're for your protection so that you don't get shocked with the electricity, and that'll trip. The other way to do it is some of these breakers, they'll have a little white tab on them, and then your circuit is protected at the breaker. And the arc faults in the bedrooms are the same way. They have a little breaker. In your panel box, all your breakers by code are labeled, especially on the new homes, which is what we're talking about. You're going to be able to go in there and see the kitchen, the bathrooms. And the other nice part about these is this one doesn't show it here. There's no power running to it, but there's a little window under this particular breaker that'll glow red, and you'll see that. And generally they're all facing each other in. This is the on position, this is the off position. So when you can't work the hair dryer, for example, this is going to be halfway over, and there's going to be red in the window. So you're going to know right away. That's one of the reasons we really like this, especially for homeowners. You can walk out to the breaker panel, open it up, and say, oh, okay. And then you turn it off to reset it, and then back on. And if it resets, that means everything is okay. If it doesn't allow you to reset and it goes right back, then you know, hey, wait a minute, I have more of a problem here. And it could be a faulty wire, it could be a weak GF, a weak breaker. There could be a number of things. But at that point, it's time to probably call an electrician in and not try to self-diagnose and do home maintenance on that. That's more than just a maintenance type thing. Every once in a while, the GFCI will trip the breaker, and that's because of the hair dryer's been going too long. Hair dryers typically pull a lot of wattage, and that's what causes them to trip. The They have, these breakers are for each circuit in the home, and each circuit is designed with a certain size wire and a certain circuit. So this one is a 10 amp. So that only takes a certain size wire and so many receptacles or so many lights. And they all draw, and we do a load calculation by the electrician when we build your home. And then he calculates what circuits he needs in what areas, whether it's a bedroom, outside, inside. We like to try to put your outside outlets on a GFCI circuit that's protected with either the kitchen or maybe a bedroom or bathroom, with a bathroom outlet, so that it's all on one circuit and it saves some space in the boxes. Typically on our new homes, we have probably 4 or 5 empty spaces for growth as well. If you're going to put in a pool or even sprinkler systems, things like that. Anything you need for more circuits than that, we have space in those boxes. So that's the Square D QO line of breakers. Weather stripping, interior and exterior. So there's all different kind of ways to seal moisture and air out. All of your doors are going to have weather stripping around them. We want to maintain those. Sometimes they have a tendency for the animals, your dog or cat, to kind of scratch that up and such. You want to maintain that so that the door seals. When you get the home, we've already pressurized and tested the home with our energy rater. So we've made sure everything seals up pretty nice and tight. You may have the occasional little hole here and there, a little bit of daylight coming through, but a little adjustment and we can seal that. We have weather stripping that goes around the attic access to keep the heat out and keep the cool air in. Nowadays we have the water heaters that are hybrid water heaters, and those are kind of nice because they kick out a little bit of the cool air in the garage. And for habitat homes, we insulate above the garage. So it makes it a little more bearable in the garage rather than just a hot area. So we want to try to keep that as sealed as possible. Keep the cool air in, the warm air out, or in the wintertime, the reverse of that. Some of the caulking, not only are we using it to seal air, but we're also using it to seal water, like in your tubs, around the tub or the tub, fiberglass tub to the drywall, that gets caulking, the vinyl window to the drywall. Those two different materials expand and contract differently in different directions. And when they do that, they have a tendency to crack over time. So we put in a pliable silicone sealant, which some are paintable and some are not paintable. This is a Dynaflex 230, and it says right on there, paintable and water cleanup, which really helps. We usually prime the drywall, then caulk it over top of prime drywall, and then paint it again, tape off and paint it again, so that the caulking material is painted so that it doesn't discolor. Some of these are for inside and some are for outside, some are more for a shower. So here is a weatherproof 30-minute rain ready. So this one skins over pretty quick, whether it's the shower or outside. And this is not paintable. And you'll know right away when you get ready to paint, because it just beads off and it doesn't take it. And you think, uh-oh, wait a minute. And then you got to clean it all out of there. But this is great clear silicone for the tub areas, the sink to the countertop to the backsplash or things like that where you want to keep the water out. Then this clear silicone, and then you don't see it. And you wipe it off. Now one of the applications you can use is this little thing right here. That helps to get in the corners and make it nice and smooth. And as a professional, we have some other methods, but some of these little things like this help a lot. It's got a little cap that can go over top of the caulking when you're done with it. It goes on there and it keeps it so that you can use it again. This keeps it out, keeps it from looking bad, the caulking job. You want it nice and smooth. You want it to be as minimal as possible, but get in those edges and those inside corners where the materials are. Again, it's a Lowe's or Home Depot product type thing. So, and it uses all kinds of things. Now with the silicone, you cannot use water cleanup with silicone. You have to use like a denatured alcohol or mineral spirits to clean this up. You can't just wipe it off your fingers. So if it says paintable and water cleanup, but it's also silicone, then that's pretty easy to use and pretty good. This one happens to be, you can see the difference between this and this. This one happens to be a dispensing, just a tube, smaller amount, easier to dispense. You pop the end of it off, you cut this on a little bit of an angle, and you can dispense it, and then pop the lid back on, and it goes on pretty easy. This is a little more with a caulking gun, and then you have to cut the end of it. It doesn't seal as easy, and you can see there's quite a bit more here than there is here. When you use the caulking gun, it's got a way to penetrate the seal that's on top of it. This one happens to have a cutter for the end of it, as well as on the back side. So as you're caulking it, when you're done dispensing it, if you don't push that button, it keeps pressure on, then this keeps coming out. And you got to be careful. If you set it on the counter, the next thing you know, you got quite a mess on the counter. And if these caulkings, there's all different kind of caulkings for every application. There's clear, there's color, there's some that will go on white and dry clear, which is kind of really nice. It's much easier to apply because you can see it go on, you can see where it is, and then you can move on from there. So if you don't, when you apply this, if you don't have this little thing here, you can wet your finger and tool it with your finger, or you can, they have some tooling knives at Home Depot and Lowe's to make it nice and smooth on there so it blends in really, really nice. The caulking guns, these range in price as well. A little more of a tool type thing. So if you're excited about your new home, you want to buy some tools, hey, I got a caulking gun and it looks great, that kind of thing. So, but hide it in your toolbox, which we'll talk again in a little bit. A plunger, I don't have one here, but a plunger is something every home should have. Two different size plungers, a larger one and a smaller one. Because when you need it, you can't exactly run to the store to get the plunger. You want to make sure the plunger is at home, under the sink in the bathroom or maybe in the garage. I would consider using like a plastic bag to store it in, considering what you use it for. And then you store it. It would probably be sanitary to put it inside of a plastic bag and maybe put it in the garage somewhere. You can also, there's some treatments that you can put down the drains every so often that help that build up in the pipes to stay clear. There's some enzymes and things, there's natural stuff that you can put down there, as well as lots of chemicals and things. And that will probably help you, prevent you from having to call a plumber professionally and pay hundreds of dollars to get some things unclogged. One of the nice things about the new homes that we have is everything is PVC pipe, which flows and works much, much better than old cast iron used to, because it used to rust, or there's a product that used to be used called Orangeburg, and then that breaks and roots grow through it, and it's really complicated. So the new CPVC pipe, it's pressure tested when we're putting in and we build your new home, as well as when the water comes in on the water supply line. It's called CPVC, and it's for the hot and cold water, and it's pressurized as well and tested and inspected. So there's some, now in the new homes, there's great advancements that help to give you great performance for your home, and it lasts quite a bit longer, minimizing maintenance and troubles and things. One of the other things that we'll talk about is the dryer. You're using your dryer, it's a great thing. In your new homes, you're gonna have the dryer that's inside your air-conditioned space. It's fantastic. That's probably one of the best things, instead of in the back of a hot garage or maybe on the side of the house. The air-conditioned space, the air conditioner is generally really close there. It's centrally located, so it's super efficient on your air conditioner side. But your dryer, you're using it. Sometimes your vent pipe will go through the roof, sometimes it goes out the wall. Just depends on the model. Either way, that pipe ends up building up lint over time. You can purchase a lint brush with a flexible line that can go in there and clean that out. You want to maintain that. You want to maintain your lint trap that's inside of your dryer. Every time you dry something, you clean that out. The performance of your dryer will be good and it won't get hot. Ultimately, if your lint builds up, it could be catastrophic because it will catch fire, and then unfortunately that's a major, major problem with the house burning down. So if you maintain that, you'll notice that, hey, this thing's working a whole lot better, or my dryer's not drying like it used to. The clothes are needing 2 cycles now to dry. Then that would be the first place I would start. As long as the dryer's working and it's getting the power it's supposed to be getting the power it's supposed to be getting, as well as now it's flowing and it can breathe the way it's supposed to, then it's working like it should and it's performing like it should. Ultimately, that's going to use less power and save you on your bill. If it's got to keep drying and it's got to work harder, then that's going to cost you more and more and more to run that dryer or that washing machine. Mold and mildew, we have inside of the home we'll consider the home a box of air. And you close the windows and we run the air conditioner all the time. And this box of air, we're going to be breathing in, breathing out. We're using the restroom inside of this box of air. We're showering in it. We're cooking in it. And it's just a box of air that's turning over. With our filters, air filters, they're MERV 11 filters, as well as our air cyclers. They really monitor your indoor air quality. They have humidistats on the thermostats. Nice days are coming in a row and it all works out really well. You don't run your air for a while. You keep the windows shut because maybe it's 50-some degrees or so. It just depends on you. But we need fresh air. We need to breathe this fresh air. After a day or two, you've had the same air and it gets stagnant. So for us, we have a couple things. The MERV 11 filters, they're pretty thick. They are, most of them are about 11 inches. The MERV 11 filter is probably about 4 to 5 inches thick. And it just does a super job. And you'll see that on the trap door. When we're out there with you on the projects, we'll show you where that trap door is. You only got to replace it once or twice, but you do have to monitor it because it depends on pets and homes. Everybody's just a little bit different. So to say across the table every 2 weeks, that's not it. When you vacuum, you probably should monitor it and just kind of check, hey, does this need to be changed? So that it's breathing and doing like it should. It's going to filter allergens and all kinds of things. Yes, sir.
You said you might have to replace it once or twice. Is that in what time period?
I'm sorry, once or twice annually, you might have to replace that. And you can get them online. You'll see right on the side when you open the little trap door to the air filter, you'll see the sizes and the manufacturer and all the information you need to Google it. So whenever you're not sure, I think Google is a great thing. It helps me and helps my homeowners to kind of fill in the blanks and say, geez, how do I do this? And generally the manufacturers, you know, if it's not available at Home Depot or Lowe's, then you can get it online, gets delivered right to you. And then you can get different levels of these filters. This one here is a 16 by 20, $23.85. It's made by Honeywell. So it's not bad. You can even get a box of 5 for $114 as well. And then that takes care of it. You put the extra ones away and you're kind of set for a while. And this is going to filter all kind of allergens and everything, again, with your indoor air quality. With your air cycler portion, your air cycler monitors how much your air conditioner has run or not run. And it's a separate, it looks like a thermostat. It's inside of your AC closet and it's attached to your air handler. You do not have to mess with that. That's programmed when our Energy Star guy comes out and does his final test of the home to see how tight the home is. Generally, we are required, we are below the air leakage allowed for code. So they say, hey, it's too tight, we need fresh air makeup. So this air cycler is a mechanical monitoring damper that says we need more air. So it will automatically, without you messing with it, it'll turn on your bath exhaust fan, it'll open the damper and allow the fresh air in. 1 unit of air out of the exhaust fan equals 1 unit of air in this environment. So that works really, really great. It monitors, it'll run on its own. You'll hear your bath fan turn on once in a while, all by itself. That little switch on the wall in the bathroom, you'll see is a little different than all the rest of them. It's electronic. And then in the AC closet, you'll see the display there that you don't have to mess with again. And if you run your air, this thing may never turn on because you run your air enough and it brings in enough fresh air. Though the air cycler and the air handler and air conditioner run together to give you great indoor air quality and bring in that fresh air instead of opening a window and then having it not conditioned. This damper brings in, you'll see the pipe next to your air handler. It'll bring in the air below your air filter it, and then it comes into the house in the living area. So that tends to work out really, really well. That also keeps the mold and mildew to almost nothing in your home. It's in every environment, but we want to keep it very much to a minimum. One of the other things is when you're working around the house, there's some safety equipment that everyone should have in a toolbox. So you get a little toolbox as you go into having a home, safety glasses, masks, there's some ear protection that you want to have. These are really inexpensive. If you don't have them at home, you're definitely not going to use them. But if you have them at home and you get ready to work with, say, the liquid Drano and such, slip on a pair of these. You just never know when it's going to splash, and it just takes a little bit of Drano or bleach in the eye and you will not be happy. So safety, safety, safety. We want to make sure a pair of gloves, again, like I mentioned before, all those kind of things, that safety stuff, even an old shirt that you wear when you're working with this kind of thing, you don't end up ruining a nice shirt, nice pants, that kind of thing. And most of all, you don't hurt yourself. You know, a nice pair of gloves that you're working with it, that may save you for a trip to the hospital. So trust me when I tell you, safety glasses, from experience, safety glasses. So I want to talk about some tools and things. When you got your house, you got some tools and some standard tools that you should have. These are some pretty inexpensive tools that I got from Home Depot, Lowe's, your hardware store, Harbor Freight. There's a Phillips and a standard. And there's some different sizes, number 1, number 2, number 3 Phillips and standards. You want them to fit the screws that you're putting them into. And you'll see whether it's a little sloppy or it's too big and it doesn't fit tight. And we've worked with you on this. By this point, we've worked with you on the job sites and you've used some of these things. But they're great stuff to have in your little toolbox. They're only good for one thing, and that's for screws. So you got to have them in order to use them. And you're going to use these on tightening up your cabinet handles, your door handles. Things are just going to work loose over time and use. It's just normal wear and tear on a home. And with these, you're empowered. We showed you, and you can do it yourself. Just tighten them up. It's going to save you quite a bit. So standard and Phillips screwdriver is a must. Then you've got some other tools here, and you'll see that these all match. I was able to get these into a set. So this is an adjustable wrench, and it turns with the sizes, which is pretty handy. This is a standard pair of pliers, and it has 2 different size settings that you can go to bigger, whatever you're grabbing that's larger, or you can adjust it and it's smaller. And it helps you to hold things, grab things, all kinds of stuff is standard. And then there's also needle nose pliers. Needle nose pliers are great for all kinds of things. Getting prickly stuff if you ran into the cactus out, or all kinds of things. You just never know the usage of this. This one has a little wire cutter on the back side of it so that you can cut some things like a coat hanger, that kind of stuff. So the projects that the kids may have, all this stuff is going to come in handy. So these are some standard tools that you should have. You don't need the best ones, but you do need some. I believe in your package, your little tool kit that you got when you got your Habitat house, that you're going to get some of these tools and they're all going to match. Now the tools that you get are going to match so you can keep everybody else out of your tools and you can keep accountable to them and keep them someplace safe. You also should have some kind of a hammer. You know, when you move into your new home, you're going to have windows treatments or pictures or all kinds of things that you're going to want to hang up on the wall, and there's various ways. You don't need a great big hammer like we've had on the job sites and maybe you've used when we were building the home, but you are going to need some kind of hammer like this. This works just fine, something that you can swing, put in some pegs, and then hammer on that. So this also works good for breaking up some ice in the ice tray, that kind of thing. Just, you know, you should wash it off before you use it. Just my suggestion, you do what you want to do. It works good for crab legs sometimes, and it breaks, these pliers work good for crab legs as well, if you're into crab legs. So they're very versatile tools. They work for a whole bunch of things. And those are some of the tools. If you'd like to get into maybe some screw guns or battery guns like you've seen on the job sites, you can get into those. There's all different kinds, and the stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, have their own brands that are pretty dependable with all that, and then that'll help you to work with things even a little bit better. So as you can see, there's quite a few little things that we've covered. One of the easiest things is these light bulbs, and I get this call quite a bit. Hey Ron, my light's not working in the bathroom. And you've got 4 light bulbs in the bathroom light bar, and is there one light out or is the whole strip out? And generally it's one light bulb. So I say, good news, if you take out that light bulb safely, turn the light off, and you unscrew it, and then you go to the store and you say, hey, I need one of these. So it's important that you know what size you need, because you don't want too much wattage, it gets overheated, you don't want the wrong base on it. You want to get the like ones, and you want them all to match so they look pretty good. These are CFLs. We have LED light bulbs as well. Now everything is going with LED. The nice part about that is they don't give off the heat as the old incandescents used to give off, and they're much more reliable. They last so much longer, and you can get a lot more light with the LEDs than you can with the regular bulbs. Light is measured by lumens, so you'll see on there you can get white, daylight. This one here happens to be a daylight. This one here happens to be soft white. It just kind of depends on what you want where. Some of the fluorescents are whiter. In the bathroom, you might not want that really white light. You might want something a little easier on your eyes, because in the morning it's really bright. But you have extras. Always buy 3 or 4. Have some extras at the house. That way you don't have to run back. Plus the value, instead of buying one, there's always usually a value in buying a multi-pack. But unscrew the one that's there and then take it down. If the light bulb is broken out of the base, please make sure the light is turned off first before you work on it in any way. Whether you screw in a potato to unscrew it, and there's some tricks like that on YouTube, or you take some of these pliers and you unscrew it, you got to make sure the light's turned off for your safety. Super, super important. Whenever you work on anything electric, make sure the circuit and the light is turned off. Very much so. So that covers tools as well. That should help kind of give you some general ideas and general maintenance tips for having your new home. Good luck. God bless. Have a great day.
I have one quick question, Ron.
Yes.
And I know this isn't necessarily pertaining to home maintenance, but we did have a couple questions on pest control, termites.
Good questions.
To that.
So we live in a wonderful place called Florida, and we have dampness and bugs and all kinds of crazy things. So when we built your home, we had a pest control company that treated before the construction, and then when we were done the construction, they treated for termites and bugs and things. And we tried to make your home just as tight as possible. And one of the ways that we tested is because we're Energy Star, our Energy Star rater comes in and does a blower door test, and he pressurizes it. And by keeping the air out, he also seals the bugs out of it as well. However, in Florida, we have some wonderful termite bugs that get everywhere. There's drywood. I'm not a bug guy, I'm a sticks guy, and I build the homes. But it's something that you have to go on, maintain. It's an ongoing thing. You should have some kind of a service when you move into your home. Get with a pest control company so they can monitor and take due diligence to stay on top of those things. If you happen to see something that's flying or a little bug or something, then you have a relationship with a pest control company. You can make a quick phone call, they can get right on it, and it's not really any kind of an issue. If you let it go on untreated, like a toothache, then it becomes an issue. The only thing termites do is eat wood. Their whole life is about eating wood, and we certainly don't want that. We've got it treated for them, but that's not a foolproof method, and it's not going to last forever. We do everything we can to do the best we can for you. But yes, you should have a service, and you should maintain that. Any other questions?